Hey everybody, welcome back to the Financial Griot podcast, where we're actually interviewing J.Money of Budgets Are Sexy. He's one of the progenitors, in my opinion, of this entire financial happiness movement. Maybe it's not even just about the money. It's about really just enjoying the space that we're in. And for me, it's a complete honor, as well as for Alainta as well, because she's out here doing all the co-hosting and all that good stuff, scheduling everybody and put me on the spotlight to let you guys know that you're welcome back to this space where we talk about just our financial stories. And we'd really like to connect with you and other people just like yourselves, because part of money is not just about the dollar bills or even like showing up in all white parties on yachts. That's not what this is all about. It's about really connecting with different people, eating good food, breaking bread, as we used to say, and probably is a pun for the money terms, but ultimately an opportunity for us to really share stories that matter. So I'm happy to be here yet again as one of your hosts, Lawrence Delva Gonzalez, the neighborhood finance guy. Passing it over.
What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of TFG. Like LG stated, we are super excited because we have the original, I will call you like the four founders at this point of personal finance in terms of blogging, but more or less the transparency. We're gonna just dive a little deep into your story, but yeah, I'm super happy you're on our podcast today, and we just had a great conversation with you at FinCon a few weeks ago in Orlando, and I was just like, wow, man, he has a lot of great energy. Like you just have this great welcoming spirit about yourself, and I'm just like, that's J.Money, And
Do you even blog? Do you even blog?
Just walk around passing out energy. Yeah, that's my job. Yeah.
But you just have this like great energy about you. I'm just like, I'm gonna ask him. Let me look for his information. I'm gonna ask him if he'd be on a podcast. And you just, really opening about it and want to be on our podcast. So I really appreciate you, J.Money, for being here today. And we're just gonna dive in. Introduce yourself to we already introduced you, but let us know who you are. Like people who don't know who you are.
Yeah. And thanks for all the kind words. I mean, that's really, I didn't know starting out, but my goal is to be more positive and open about money and sharing. Because a lot of this stuff is scary. A lot of people hate thinking about it, talking about it, doesn't have anyone to talk about it with. So that was basically my goal when I started, was just to have fun, be a normal person. I have no degrees in finance. I didn't think I'd, write my story and my ideas on the interwebs for a living. That was like the last, I didn't know that was a thing, 10 or 15 years ago. But yeah, basically years ago, I bought a house with no money down, no real plan, no budget or anything. And I thought, maybe I should start paying attention to money more. And I'd never been like really bad at it, but I'd never been really good either. I've kind of just been in the middle. So I started Googling like how to budget, and I kept coming across all these like normal people on the web, just talking about how they save, how they invest, how they pay off debt. And one blog in particularly, who's still around, My Money blog, used to share his net worth. And I'd never, ever seen anyone's money like that, like stark, like here's my savings, here's my debt, here's my investments, and here's my overall, net worth number. And that just like hit me, because I just, we don't talk in numbers, right? And we certainly would never dare share the exacts, whether they're good or bad. And so that really hooked me. And for a few months, I started reading blogs. And then I was like, I could just talk about, money every day. So I snuck at work onto the computer for 30 minutes, published, went away, and it started getting comments and traffic. And I was like, oh man, all right, people are having fun. I'm having fun. And a year later, I ended up getting fired. I'm like, well, screw it. I'm going to be a full-time blogger. And that was about 14 years ago. And I've created other sites over the years and sold them. I actually sold budgetsaresexy.com after 12 years and ended up reacquiring it this year. So I'm back to blogging again after, quote, retiring. So yeah, it's nice to be back. Thanks for having me. Thanks for all the kind words. And I'm glad that that's the energy that you're feeling is positive. And that's what I want, because there's a lot of, craziness in this world, as we all know.
Right. Absolutely. And okay, so there was a lot to break down there, but I just want to, I just want to ask you in regards to purchasing a home with no money down. Right. Yeah. So on your blog, you mentioned that you purchased a home in 2007. So this is prior to the,
The crash.
The crash, the housing crash and everything. So you actually bought your home with no money down. Was it something that you just came into? Because you did mention on your blog that you were going to purchase a 2-bedroom. So how did you make that distinguish? Like, rather than purchase, rather than rent, let me just buy. So how did you make it?
Yeah, it was totally like, I'm one of those people that like, I'm just spur of the moment, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. Actually, my fiance and I at the time were looking to rent a 2-bedroom, and we literally like took a wrong turn down the wrong street, and we just happened to see this like place. It was a townhouse, it was near a lake, and it was for sale. And, you know, there's a number, call me if you're interested in this house. And I was like, well, I'll just call it just for fun. Like, you know, what's going to happen? Right.
Right.
You know, and this realtor, man, he was there within 15 minutes of that phone call. Like, oh, let me show you around. I was like, no, I'm not ready to look. I just had questions. He's like, oh, I'm in the area. You know, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, so one thing led to another, and he's like, well, I rent, throwing money down, you know, the drain, blah, blah, blah. You know, and ran numbers, and you don't even need to put money down. Right. You know, and fortunately we were able to afford, you know, the mortgage, and a lot of people haven't, and that's the whole crash and all that stuff. Right. But the thing that gets me, I mean, I'm glad it happened, because that's really what got me to like, it forced me to pay attention to my money. So like, definitely no regrets, but like, gosh, like I was just not the ideal homeowner. And years later, I'm like, you know what? Homeownership is not for everyone. It's not the American dream for everyone. If you love it, great. But like, it is okay to rent, and like, there's no shame in that. And so like, I'm at heart, you know, a renter. Like I own now because my wife wants to, but if not, I'd rent for the rest of my life, you know, but at the time that's how it went down. Yeah. So it was all accidental, but it got me into learning and, you know, and blogging really.
Yeah. So in terms of the blogging, and I know you said you just was looking to see like, how can you budget the money and everything. So what were you finding when you were like typing in the Google and all this other blogger was coming up, but what specifically?
Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki, everything.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Everything.
Yeah.
So what specifically like really kind of inspire you to blog, or just to be more transparent, because you were one of the very few people, you know, 15, 14 years ago, being really transparent about the network, really transparent how much they were making, how much they were spending.
Yeah, you know, that's a good question. And I can't even remember. And it's not that it's been a long time ago. I think once I got onto blogs and just started reading everyone's, you know, art, you know, ideas and stories about paying off debt, saving, investing more. It was just like everything. But I was just like, it was just so hooked, because it was just like real people talking about money in like a normal way. Like they weren't trying to sell anything. And back then there was no like affiliate stuff. I mean, there was ads here and there. But I honestly didn't even know blogs made money. Like I didn't even know that was a thing, because like we were just so hooked on the bloggers writing and their story, and they were like genuinely trying to help, you know. And it wasn't like a company that wrote like a robot, like here's how to say, you know, here's how. And there's a lot of blogs now that are like that, but a lot of them are playing this, you know, SEO, build up a business, you know, make money off blogging game, which is fine, you know, and I do it too. But the motivations were swapped, especially back then. It was all, we're a community, let's help each other, you know, and it was very personal. So I just got sucked into that. And I learned, you know, there's all different types of budgets, you know, with different percentages and stuff. But like, even that, like, I don't know many people that like do percentages. Like it's nice in theory, but like people really don't do it. At least I've seen. And me over the years, I went from, you know, 2008, like, oh, I got a house. All right. Like I want to be a millionaire. Like that'd be awesome. So like my whole thing was like, try to be a millionaire. And I had like this millionaire club. I was trying to motivate people. And over the years, I was like, oh yeah, it'd be great to have $1 million. But like, what I really want is like the perfect lifestyle, you know, like I want to use money to like enjoy waking up and what I do. And maybe that's going to require $1 million, maybe 2 million, maybe, you know, $250,000, right? You hear people all the time that, you know, don't spend that much money on a month. And so you don't need as much money to quote, like retire. And that's the big thing, right? So I started focusing on cutting down my expenses and then banking and investing the difference. And so I just like consumed everything. And then even my blogging style, you can tell from the early days to now, it's like now I'm like into theory and again, like this lifestyle minimalism, and I don't actually do a lot of specifics like I used to. So I have to be better about that. But yeah, that's kind of, you know, how I fell into it all. And it's, I mean, like, you know, as you guys know, this community is great. I love it.
It's funny that you mentioned in regards to how you were in the beginning, just keep pushing for, I need to be a millionaire. Like you were quantifying of the amount that you want to kind of feel as though you made it to this, idea of success, right? You were motivating others, but what looks like has changed now, you're a minimalist and trying to be a little bit more I guess happy and satisfied with and content with your life, in terms of you just want to put the money towards your lifestyle, being happy, providing for your family. What I have noticed too, as you can see how personal finance has changed throughout the years since you've been blogging, is the FIRE movement. People are really gung-ho about firing, retiring at a certain age, having a certain amount of money, and doing all these things so they can pursue other passions or things. But also in the grand scheme of things, people are pushing in terms of becoming a millionaire. But once they reach a number, they realize that it's not something that essentially that they actually wanted or desire. It kind of shifts where it's like, okay, I made it here. Now what?
There's no party or anything. Nothing happens when you become a millionaire. Like, and if, you're not going to go around bragging, I'm a millionaire. So it's really like a secret party.
Right. It's almost like you're running this race and you get to the end of this race, then you realize, there's a bigger world. Like what's now? Like what's going on? I have to continue running. Yeah.
Well, especially if you're like obsessed, because there are a lot of FIRE bloggers, and I am a fan ultimately of FIRE, or at least the general idea of financial independence. The retiring part could be left out. That part doesn't bother me either way, but the financial freedom to be able to use your time, how you choose. But you're right. There's some people that are so like addicted to the number and they're just, for 10 years, they'll just hustle and they just won't live, but they'll just be saving, working. And there are people in our space that have hit retirement and come back and said, gosh, it sucks. Like I just wasted part of my life, So like, if you can find that happy medium, like that's that, because you do need a hustle. I mean, it can't be lazy to like reach financial freedom, obviously. But figuring out, and for me, I'm lucky. I started right before I had kids. I think maybe 4 or 5 years into having kids, and I didn't have a job because I got laid off. So I'm like, I'm just going to hustle. So all I did, but I mean, I remember my wife saying like, you are working 60, 80 hours a week on this blog thing, but like, you need to like live a little bit. Like she kind of like, was trying to scare me a little bit. So I think
centered.
If I didn't have kids, I think I would have like regretted a lot of it, So they were like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I don't want to be that dad. Like I need to like spend more time with them. And then when I figured out how to open up time and really make relatively the same amount of money, I'm like, wait a minute. Like what kind of like, like the whole like work smarter, not harder kind of thing. Like it really hit me. And then I started like, I don't want to work weekends anymore. And that was like crazy. If you're a hustler, right? You got to work weekends and nights, like, and you can't, and everyone's hustling. And so cutting that back. And then I'm like, I'm not going to work nights anymore. And now I'm down basically to working just half a day, Monday through Friday. That's like my goal. And most days I hit it. Some days I don't. But like, I still make relatively the same amount of money just because I've restructured and rechanged, and I had to force myself to think. But like, again, going back to the lifestyle, like that's my lifestyle. Like I want to work regardless if I have $1 million or $10 million. I want to work like 3 or 4 hours a day, like on a project. I don't even care what the project is, as long as I like it. It could be a blog, it could be a company, it could just be volunteering, like whatever. Like I just want to be productive for 4 hours, and then the rest of the day do whatever. So like that's my goal. So anytime like a new opportunity comes up, or a way to make money, or someone asks for something, or even interviews, right? Doing this, like, does this fit with it? Will I still be able to get my 4 hours and then done? Yes. Okay, then you can do it. So congrats, you guys made the 4 hours today.
I'm gonna call it the 4 hour work day. The 4 hour work day. You gotta coin it. You gotta make it a book, and then you gotta sell it.
That's right.
And something about what you said too is like in this, I guess, financial space, we've seen the evolution of people that have shared the information from a probably more holistic space at the beginning. Now it's just super commercial. Now at some point, it's always a sale, it's always a pitch, it's always a mastermind.
It's not raw anymore.
Have you seen? Has it lost like a lot of obviously there's still people that are putting out great content, but have you seen just a proliferation of just everything?
Yes. Yeah, especially in the blog space. I mean, and I did curation. So one of my sites, Rockstar Finance, and then just recently All Star Money, Like my job was literally to track every single financial blog in the world, see what they're publishing, and then every day showcase my 3 favorite articles. So I, and as a minimalist, that's hard because I don't want to consume that much, but for the job, that was it. And so I had to just watch what everyone's doing. And I mean, I got to tell you, like, I think last year, about 200 articles every day, brand new articles every day come out from about 2,000 bloggers around the world. And these are the only ones that I could find. I'm sure there's more. And out of those 200, I would say like 10 are real, raw, like no selling, which is what, like 5%? 50% are just trying to make money. They're literally set up. I mean, there's blogs I've seen, their very first blog post, here's how to make money blogging. And I'm like, come on, man. This is your first one. Like,
it's a classic. You have to sell the evergreen content.
Yeah. And then others are like, have been around for a few years and are good bloggers. And then eventually like, well, is it worth shutting down or should I try and make money? And it's like, and that's fine, right? You can have a nice mix. And even me, like I was, I didn't really know you can make money back in 2008. When I figured it out, I did it, but only enough, like I only did enough to have like a decent paycheck. I was never, unfortunately, to my wallet, like hardcore. I mean, there's some people make 100, 200,000 every month, like sickening money. And they've decided the money is the most important. Right. And they're still fine bloggers, but like that, again, going back to like the priorities. And so, yeah, you're right. It has changed. But the good news is there's always new people coming in. And the new people I love because they don't know about SEO as much. They don't know about making money. Like they're just trying to like share and help. And I love it. It's the first 6 months of any new blog are great. After that, like they either die off.
Oh man, he said I'm a tank. I'm in the back half. I'm a tank.
Yeah. But you never know, and there's some that go on, like Mr. Money Mustache is like killer, right? But I mean, we were here before he was on the scene. I remember when he came out, I'm like, oh shit, this guy's like blowing it up, and a lot of people, like there's naturally good storytellers out there, which for me in blogging, right? Like it's the personal stuff. Like, yeah, I want to learn how to make more and save more. But ultimately, like I want to hear this like story. I want to just learn and be, consumed by this, by your story. So overall, I think the community is good because at least gets you to stop and think. But you're right, you do have to be just a little careful of like the ultimate, priorities.
Yeah, Alainta used to make this. She made this observation about, I guess, people that's in this financial literacy space, especially when you get to this mountaintop, there's always a photo of you, like your back towards the camera,
looking at them,
and you're gazing into the horizon. You're hiking somewhere. Like, have you seen that? Is that a thing that we all do or something at some point?
Oh man, I don't know. It's it's all, the whole thing is a trip. I mean, just the fact that you could to me, it's still crazy that like you guys are interviewing me to talk about a blog of my thoughts on money. Like, it's so crazy that that's a thing, but I love it, right? That's what social media and everything, like we have access to all, like normal people can share thoughts and like do good in the world, and I love that. And so like, to me, all this is crazy. And every now and then I tell my wife, I'm like, I can't believe I get paid to just like I was at a coffee shop today, like that's where I was at. And then I had coffee and I blogged a little, I walked around and, I'm like, oh, I got to remember this interview today with you guys. Now, and my son's like, why are they interviewing? I'm like, oh, I'm going to talk about money. Like, is it recorded? I'm like, yeah. They're like, is it a radio show? And I'm like, oh, no, kind of. They're like, oh, are you famous?
Sort of.
I'm like, well, in our little world, He's like, I want to be rich and famous and make millions. And I'm like, okay. Like, I have to teach you a little bit more, but yeah, no, just the fact that like we have access and we can share so much. And unfortunately, like a lot of people share garbage, and hack the world, and they use your skills for bad when you can very easily use your skills for good, so that didn't really, I don't know if that answers your question, but like that's, but I just think it's awesome that, we have access and we're able to, use the internet and social media in cool ways.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you answered it. In a way, it just seems like there's always this apex amount of money. And I'm like, why are you still selling? If you're a millionaire, multi-millionaire, why are you still here? Why are you doing this? Like, it's like you're selling again. It's like, at some point, can you stop selling? Like, is there a point?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I've asked people in our space specifically, like, you're just killing it. You're making millions of dollars. I know you're financially free. And I was like, what's the next goal? And they're like, sell more courses. I'm like, all right, well, like, let's pretend you've sold like 10 million more courses. Like, you're a billionaire. Like, then what? And they're like, build another company, sell this company. It's like always, and maybe the businessy stuff is in their DNA. Like, I don't know, but it does, you're right. It does feel like there's not enough. And I don't, and it's scary, I'm glad I figured that out earlier. I mean, I still love $1 billion, but like, I'm perfectly content without $1 billion too, and I think about death a lot, especially with kids, like, I don't know, like we all, like people we know now, especially as we're getting older, or at least me, I'm in my early 40s, people are dying left and right, and I'm like, man, like, did they like live life? And most of them die while they're still working, some of them die at work, that's crazy. So like death, I'm always like very in tune with. Like, I even bought my own cemetery plot a couple of years ago. And I'm like, all right.
Okay,
well, like,
that was left.
Hey, I'm with him. I'm like, I want to die at work.
All right, Jay.
I want to die at work to make my
Let's
boss.
embrace
Like,
let's just go there.
And you know what? I'll tell you something that really, like, you walk around a plot that you bought that you're going to be in one day. Like, that really puts it in perspective.
That is actually kind of wild. Like, it's like, yep, this is where I will lay.
Yeah, I'll even actually physically lay there for like 5 seconds and be like, okay, then I get freaked out and I leave. But like, it really, like, okay, like, remember, like, live, like, do your best, like, money, business, because I get sucked into business and blogging and want to be the best and all that good stuff too, but yeah, it's a good reminder to like live, live. Money isn't everything.
Absolutely. I think one of the cool things I do like about your blogs, because you have this bio section where, you list all your accomplishments and everything that you've done, especially, selling off, your blog and then buying it back. Right. Mm-hmm. But you also mentioned in your blog is the failures, your resume of failures that you have. And you list that starting from 2017. Now I want to touch on, how did you lose?
My failures?
Yes. One of your failures. How did you lose over $90,000
Oh, yeah. So
2013 to 2016.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because someone keeps calling my phone. Because we are, as social media, like, quote, influencers and all that, we always put out all the goods, and we accidentally forget to put the bads, and like, we're regular people, right? And we fail all the time. So that was like one of my things that I wanted to do, is really share, like, hey, it's not all rainbows and, money over here. And over the years, there was a time. So when I kind of figured out that money, like the millionaire goal, wasn't as important as a lifestyle goal, I started prematurely just living the ideal lifestyle. I had 2 kids. I had 1 kid. And then I found out I was having another. And I started selling off all my projects. It's like, no, you're having 2 kids. You want to be present, you want to work less. So I started selling off all the businesses that had good cash flow. And then this is my full-time job, right? And my wife decided at the same time to go back to grad school. So there's no more money on that side, and it was fully on me. And then when I decided, I don't want to work as much, and I hadn't figured out the work better part, there was a number of years, 5 or 6 years, where we had, like, I started with $100,000 in savings, because I'm like, all right, I can afford to be flexible until I figure it out. Well, it took me dwindling all the way down to $2,000 in savings until I figured it out, which was a number of years. And that was basically sell everything, focus on your one main baby project, which is Budgets Are Sexy, and just like do your best, and don't dibble dabble on the side and, chase after shiny new objects and projects. And so it took me a while. And then my wife started working again. She got a full-time job, and like that crisis was over. And then we had another kid. So at this point we had 3 kids. My wife works, and now she'll probably say dibble dabble on the side with the blog stuff.
Wait, is she the saver and you're the spender?
I'm realizing like that. Did you get I'm seeing the pattern
here. No, I'm the frugal one. We're both pretty frugal, actually. No, it was just with having kids. And then because she was in grad school, which is full time, and then I was working full time, it was daycare, man. Daycare, at one point we were spending, I think, like $2,800 a month for 2 kids.
Woo.
Like, it's insane. Like, that amount of money. I mean, that's like
under what age? What were they back then?
Oh, they were probably 2 to 4. or 2 to 3, something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
keep in mind you're Northeast, correct?
Yeah, I'm right outside of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So it's pretty expensive too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And granted, we could have kept them home, but then like grad school would have taken longer. Like, oh gosh, I mean, you imagine doing this stuff with kids running around, blogging and podcasting.
It's
like,
impossible.
that's crazy.
It's impossible.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it was a choice, but again, I didn't think it would take that long for us to I didn't think I'd lose $100,000 almost, shooting for it. But it is what it was. And I blogged about that too during the years because my net worth was going up, or I say our net worth, like once it hit around 400,000, like I felt good and confident. And I was like, okay, like that 400,000 number, for whatever reason, I felt secure. I wasn't hungry for more. And I wanted more, but I wasn't I didn't need to hit $1 million after that point. Like that just felt really good and secure. And then when we started losing money, like you could tell that, and the investments were going up at the time. So like the network kind of just like stabilized. It goes like up, up, up. And then it was like flat for a while until we got everything moving. And then it shot back up again, and so like there was a couple of years where I even told people, I'm like, yeah, I share all my thoughts and all my stuff on money, but FYI, I'm still losing cash flow every month. $1,000, like two, I think we were losing like $2,000 or $3,000 a month. And I was transparent about that. Some people were like, oh, I'm not going to follow you. You're losing money. You don't know what you're doing. Right. But it was a choice I made, to have that better lifestyle. I probably just should have waited a year or two and then made that choice.
Lawrence can contest to that.
Oh, you getting to that point? I mean, yeah, I'm definitely getting to that point. They looked at you like you're a hack. You're a hack. You failed me. I'm not reading another blog. Look at you. You failed. Cash flow is down.
I get hate all the time. Yeah. Even now I get hate all the time.
I guess what kept you almost like engaged in this financial space? It's weird to say financial literacy space, but the idea, what keeps you going in this amount of like for all this time? Because I'm getting to the point where I'm like, hey, a couple years after this, I become a millionaire. I might disappear.
Yeah. He's prepping everyone like I'm done with you all.
I tried my best.
He's gonna refer everyone to the blog.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like the space in the community, to be honest with you. I don't know what it is. There's like I don't know. I'm not addicted, but there's just something about being in the space and sharing thoughts and getting comments, and I don't know. I just like it. And honestly, I've just never and when I left, because I wanted to like capitalize on the success, and I wanted to take a break and stop talking about myself all the time. So I sold it, and then it'd been a few years. And the idea of like having this home, it's like my second home, where I can share thoughts, I can talk to engaged people, and like it keeps me alive. And over the last few years, I was still working on projects. I built out a site for the Motley Fool, All Star Money. Like I was still working, but I was like behind the scenes, and like I felt like it wasn't like the best use of what I can bring to the world, I guess, and so I didn't feel that productive, and I realized like being productive was something that like was important to me. That's when I kind of figured out like, oh, if I work a few hours a day, I feel productive, and then I don't have to work, and then that's good. That's enough amount of time where I feel good about it. And in the money space online just happens to be, that space. But honestly, it's the only thing I'm good at. Like I've tried over 40 jobs, and I'm 42 right now. I've tried 40 jobs, over 40. And some I was fine at, but like for whatever reason, this is the one that like just seems natural to me. I tried even podcasting like y'all, and we did good. I was on, I think I lasted 22 episodes, and I was with me and Paula Pant. It was called The Money Show. And we did good. We were on fire. We're like number 1 or 2 or whatever, like hundreds of thousands of downloads. It just didn't feel like me. I just felt like such an outsider. And I don't know, I'd rather be on shows. It's more fun than hosting. And she went on, and she's like, still way up at the top, the Afford Anything podcast. She's like killing it. So I try all this stuff, but for some reason I keep going back to blogging.
I think it's super cool and dope about, you mentioning all these things that you're doing and the skills that you've been acquiring over the years, and to start off with just blogging, right? I think it's something to be said when people are afraid to just start. They feel like they have to have all these things in order, have all these equipment or everything. Whereas like you're losing out on the journey, right? Figuring out yourself, what you like, what you don't like. In your case, you are being so transparent where you feel as though, you know, you're engaging with people and you're helping people. So it's in terms of like serving people that was really your motivation factor. But the fact that you know, gain all the success with starting off blogging and doing a podcast and doing, you know, a creation for the Motley Fool. Like there are just so many different hats and skills that you just kind of played around with and see what works for you. And I think some people don't look into that. Sometimes it's so short-sighted where you're just not looking at far beyond yourself and see what you can attain from your skills about just starting. And here at, you know, our podcast, The Financial Griot, we just try to encourage people to start where you are, because you can't have much of a opinion of anything if you're on the sidelines. Right.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so there's something that we try to kind of push our, you know, audience members to do. So what was the thing you feel as though like it wasn't, I'll say not necessarily a burnout, but you feel as though kept pushing you to kind of get to, you know, trying different things as well? Because you did podcasting, then you left podcasting, and you did all these other projects. Because I also see that you run a curator for, you know, donations for new entrepreneurs and others that so your hands are everywhere at this point. So what does encourage you to kind of try different things, not only just stick to one thing, but just start and just try?
Yeah, I think just like following like what excites you. Like my blog too, like there's so many people that have a strategy. Like I'm going to blog about, you know, dividend investing, or I'm going to see what's going on in the news. Oh, and it's inflation. I should blog about inflation. And for me, like I just blog about whatever excites me or that's like going on in my life in that day. And so really like the charity, the podcast, it's just like, oh, like that's interesting to me. Like I want to see how much good I can do in this space, and I'll try it. And sometimes I fail or I quit. Other times it takes off, and then sometimes it's kind of, you know, humming in the background. You know, but it all goes back to your point. Like when I started the blog, like it was literally just a fun hobby. I had no idea. I'd spend an hour a day, no idea it would go to change my life, money, like everything, like all my friends, my mind, you know, my money, my business, like everything came out from just publishing that first blog post. You know, and there were people like, oh, you can't have sexy in the name, you know, like that's horrible, you know, and I got blocked. People couldn't read my blog at work. It probably to this day, because, you know, you can't have anything with sexy in the URL.
Yeah, right.
You know, I didn't know, you know, and there's like media that's like, oh, I'd love to share your stuff, but like you're too, like you curse too much. Or again, the sexy, right? Like that's not appropriate for our audience. Like, oh, okay, I didn't know that, you know, but it was just like it interested me, you know, and I think as long as you try something you're interested in, like it's much better to try it for like a couple months and be like, oh, okay, like this sucks, like I'm done. But at least like it's off your brain. But like the best case, like something takes off. And there's a lot of bloggers that are successful, but not from their blog. Like their blog got them out the door, and it's kind of like, you know, I call it like the resume. But then people read it. It's like, oh, I'd like you to speak at our conference, or, oh, like you have a great story. Like, have you ever considered, you know, writing a book? You know, oh, do you want to do freelancing for my company? Like your voice matches our audience. And so most bloggers, I mean, I would say a good 90, 95% make their money off of their blog, but the blog drew them in, you know? So while they started a blog, maybe to hopefully make money or get success, like they actually got it because of the blog, but they got so many opportunities, you know, and we talked about, you know, the person that makes 100, 200,000 a month blogging. There's people that make that speaking all around the world, you know, and then people that publish books. And then some people are just good at courses, you know, and they just pump out courses and sell those. So there's a million things that can come of it and these opportunities, you know, but I think to your point, just starting it. And for me, just following, like some months I'm into something and some I'm not, and I'll try it. And sometimes it took me like 5 years to start a podcast. I wanted to, but like I didn't have the right whatever. And then Paula and I were talking, and she's always wanted to start a podcast. I'm like, well, let's just start one together. Like, screw it, you know? And it worked out for her and it didn't for me, but like it got us going, you know? And so I think just, taking action always feels better than just being in your brain all the time, you know? And so I think the more you can take action, you are going to fail more, of course, because you're taking more action. Gosh, it just feels like so much better, you know?
There was a great analogy. I spoke with Lawrence about, it was a while ago, but I remember him saying,
that's you.
like, that's you.
He's like pointing at himself like me.
Yeah, it was a great analogy that Lauren said about like sometimes your brain, is this like mother load, right? And you think about it as like a computer and you have all these tabs open at the same time. And it's like an overload. Yeah, it's like an overload because you have this thought in your mind, you have this idea in your mind, you have something that you're really passionate about, or something that that you really want to do that draws your attention, but yet it's still there. And then you open another tab and another tab. But I guess the entire system is overloading because you have all these tabs open. And as soon as you close one or close the other, you see that the system is working more properly, or it's just functioning a little bit better. The speed, the Wi-Fi, however you look at it, but you have to kind of close it. How you close it is by actually doing the action. And I always thought about that. It's just like, how would you try? How would you ever know if you don't try? Right. So it's always going to be in the back of your mind. It's always going to be something that that you can do or potentially be great at, but it's still that tab that's open that never's going to be closed because you won't start.
Hell yeah. You smart, LG.
She butchered the heck out of whatever I said.
I make it sound better. I make it sound better. Let's talk about that.
That's not how I said
I make it sound better. But you know what? That's how I processed it. So it's better.
I see. The processor's not working well. That's like computer lingo. Like, what?
So that's good.
But I did have some questions for you because at some point you did mention, or at least in this process of being transparent, being out there, your friends and family are bound to see this, right? They're going to see you somewhere on the news, some way, shape, or form. How did they feel about it?
Overall, honestly, like they don't still really know what I do. Like besides my wife and my parents, like my friends still to this day. I mean, I've been friends with them for 20 years. Like, what is it? I know you blog, but what is that again? I'm like, oh, good Lord. Like most people that
I guess.
Like if I said I'm on TikTok, they'd probably understand that, but I'm not on TikTok, right? I'm old school.
J.Money, are you the Tommy of your crew?
I guess.
Martin, it's a show on Martin. No one knows what he does, but we know he has a job and he makes money.
Maybe he has
a job, but he goes somewhere in the morning.
That's me exactly.
J.Money, he has a blog. He does something online. Like we don't know.
I mean, every now and then, like people will mention it, but like I could be, I mean, unless I'm like on MTV or like ESPN, like my friends really aren't, paying attention, or unless they're into money. And most people like aren't nerds like us or not like consuming it, But there are times where I've walked down the street and someone's like, oh, like your voice sounds familiar. Like, where do I know it from? And it's from the podcast, that I only did a couple episodes from. And like people from like high school years ago. Actually, you know what? One time at FinCon, someone came up to me and said, I remember you from college. Like, why are you here? And I said, oh, like I blog. And, I'm kind of anonymous, right? Like J.Money obviously like is, my real name, but I look the same, right? In person. And after talking, like they realized that I was J.Money, which I wasn't at college, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Like we went to the same school together, so like that was a crazy occurrence. But yeah, most times, I'll send stuff to my mom just because I know it makes her feel proud. But other than that, like they don't really pay attention.
You're like, hey, I just make money somewhere, just talking,
doing as long as I'm not like committing crimes, like they're fine with it.
Yeah,
although they were upset,
I think parents kind of like they read it, but they're like, as long as it makes you happy.
I think parents are not impressed as long as you make money. All right, like that's it.
Yeah.
Well, you also mentioned that you read about like 200 or even tracking that many blogs themselves is a task in on itself. Yeah. But were you always like this like super, like great student or anything like that? 'Cause I think a lot of people need to kind of frame it the kind of person you were in like high school. Were you a valedictorian? Were you always like a person that loved to read? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's it. Wow, I've never been asked that before. No, actually, I'm a horrible reader. Like I actually started reading books again like 3 years ago. I didn't. Before that, the last book I read was college, and I'm 42, just because I was forced to. So like I actually don't read that much, but again, like being like I love people's stories. So if like you start writing about yourself or your money, like I'm just fascinated by it. And so that kind of draws me in. In high school, yeah, I had, I guess I did. I had straight A's. I didn't like, I knew what the assignments were and what the job was, and I can get it done. Like I'm very goal oriented. So that part does set you up good for, reading, skimming 200 articles a day for sure. But it's really the goal and really like the point, like for me, because there's a lot of curators even now today in the financial space. There's Apex Money, there's personalfinanceblogs.com, Campfire Finance. Some of them are going on and off and not publishing as much. But a lot of those guys will read, 10, 20 articles a day and pick their favorites, which is fine, right? They're sharing. But for me, I was like, well, if I'm going to, call myself a curator and say, these are the best in the personal finance world, well, then I need to see all of them. You can't just be the best of my 20 friends, And so I'm still like kind of hard on myself. Like, no, like I want to just really give it my all. And I don't know if people notice or not, right? Like they don't know I'm reading 200 a day, but like, at least for me, I'm like, all right, you did your best. You scanned the whole ecosystem. You plucked out the 3 and they're always a little bit different, right? And sometimes, 5 good ones show up and I save some for tomorrow. Some days there's nothing. Some days I read 200. I mean, there was a week I read over 1,000 and there was maybe 3 articles the entire week that I like felt good sharing, and I was like, I just don't want to share crap, And so,
Right.
so I'm very like picky and, but it's a lot of waste of my time. I get paid the same way regardless, but I'm just like, no, like my name is on this, like I want to be proud, damn it. And so that I think back to your question, like probably stems from growing up and wanting to do the best I can, but no, I was never valedictorian and, I hated reading. So
but you made straight A's though.
No, he skimmed my stuff and he skimmed right through it. He was like, nah.
No, dude, I loved it.
It's funny.
I got your feed. Yeah. You have all your cartoony little guys in your little reports. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, since we're on the subject, what do you look for?
Yeah. So I look for a number of things. One, like there always has to be like a point, like a takeaway, right? And then the more juicy or like interesting or funny an article is, I love, because really, as you all know, like money is the same for thousands of years. Yeah. But one person can say it one way or use an analogy or spice it up. And I'm like, yeah, that just is like fun, even though we all know it, So I look for that. And then I also do have a tendency to skew more like positive stuff or like negative, but like in a funny way. But like some of the harsh stuff out there, or even now, as I mentioned before, I used to curse on my blog all the time. Now I realize the power of not doing that as much and you can reach more audiences and stuff. So I do look like if you're dropping F-bombs like every other sentence, like I'm probably not going to share it. But yeah, having a good point, being entertaining, and then not having like a ton of ads and affiliate links like scattered throughout, right? And the stories, the people that are good storytellers, I mean, the ones that could really share like their experience where you're drawn in, and if you're skimming 200 articles, like that takes, it usually take me about 3 or 4 hours a day to read and pick my favorite 3 and then pick the favorite quote and all this stuff. Like it's a process, and the article that would, if I spend an hour on, like, I'm like, wow, I'm glued. Like I'm sharing this because I just gave an hour of my 4 hours just to your one article, and even going back to like the fire bloggers who regretted it. There was one, and I can't think of the blog name right now, but they hit fire, they retired, and then they stopped blogging for like 3 years. And then he came back and said, I regret it. I'm divorced. I was miserable. Here's everything. And then I finally found a girl. I'm getting my life back on track. I can't remember if he's going back to work or not. But like he came back just to share that like he's miserable. And like that article like exploded, because it was so real and raw. And so, yeah, that like I featured like the next day. I was like, we got to get this out the door,
I think I actually read that one too. I really think I read it. And it's like, ooh. And I clicked on it because I do have my trepidations of what fire is. Yeah. And because it's almost like a theory. It's not really tested all the way through. Right. It's kind of like, you could save all the first point. And yes, you can retire. But this idea of retirement, we haven't tested it just yet. So a lot of people are going into it and they're going to realize that, and even for myself, I'm not retired, but I could think about it through. I'm like, it's going to cost you more money than you think, or it's going to be a medical emergency or a completely lifestyle change. And next thing you know, you're back at working again. So I always thought that to be very fascinating.
Yeah, and I think we go through stages where, and this is with net worth, right? Your net worth is really just a snapshot of where you are today. Like tomorrow can be different depending on the market, depending on emergencies, and even careers, right? One day you're interested in this career, the next you're not. Relationships, and so I think when people fire, like as of now, and all the knowledge I know, I think I'm going to be good. But I do agree, as long as they're open to like going back to work and not just like, no, I'm not going to do it because I said I'm fired. As long as you're open to things changing, because, all of us, like I didn't start a blog and think I was going to make $1 million and then have 3 kids and then, want to work half day. Like, you don't know what the hell you're going to want, in a few years. And there's tons of people like, I'm never having kids. And all of a sudden they have kids and that changes your money right there, or you get divorced.
Daycare comes in.
And daycare. Hell yeah. So yeah, I think life, but I will say the people that hit fire like are usually really smart or really like good at like hustling and stuff, So those people, to me at least, are smart enough to figure it out if it doesn't work as planned. And so that's what I'm like, like 99% of them are going to be fine because they're all smart enough to get a job or change their, and they're all like, nerds at optimization and stuff. Right. So they're going to figure it out. It's not like a lazy person is, hitting fire and then, calling it a day forever. At least, how I think of it.
I guess I got another question here. It's just probably dives a little bit deeper in what's going on in society today. You have one, high inflation. We got the prices going up. And we also have the looming, the idea that the recession is either here or it's coming, right? Yeah. So I guess what would you say to anybody? Because you went through the whole 2007, 2008 housing recession, and that's where a lot of the fears come from anyways. What would you say to somebody who's looking down this pipeline and thinking, hey, I just don't have enough money or I don't know what to do? What would you tell them?
Man, I'm looking back. Honestly, for me, like that was the season of hustling for me where I was just blogging and working online and like, as we said before, like I started blogging, but then you learn about marketing and entrepreneurship and growth and optimization and all this stuff. And I was just so consumed with hustling that like, honestly, like what was going around me, I didn't even notice that much, which was good during the time because the recession was going and everything was crashing and all this crazy stuff. Lifestyle wise, it's not good for the long term. But I think going back to your lifestyle, like it's a perfect time to really reflect on what you want out of life, because you're right. You could be let go of your job, right, in a month or so. Your expenses can go up. And I think it's a good shock to people to say, hey, what do I actually want? What do I need? Right. Because we spend so much on stuff that's fine, but like it doesn't necessarily improve our lives, even going back from phones and Netflix and all this stuff, it's all fine and good when you can afford it. But like, I think we can adapt like really, really well on a lot less, and it's amazing. Like I'll make lists. I made a list one time of the stuff that makes me happy. Right. And it could be like going for a walk free, or it could be going to a bar all night long and spending gobs of money and drinking, which I also like very much. Like, I'm not going to lie, but the happiness level is the same. I very much enjoy both the same amount. Right. And when you realize you can be just as fine without spending money, than spending money and still be happy, like you just learn to adapt so much more. But it does suck. Like if you're strapped, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, and all this stuff is going on, like all my theory talk and all that's fine, but like you need money, right? like either way. So I do think like, I guess my best would be like, get ready to hustle and hustling too. You don't have to do stuff that you hate, like you can find jobs that you actually enjoy and feel productive in, right? Like there's so many people, I use this example all the time, like picking up trash. Like some of these trash, they're on their truck and they come around in the morning and they're all smelly and dirty, but they're like outside and they're like, it's like exercise, right? And I talk to some of these guys, they're like, I fucking love my job. Like they love it. They just love it. And a lot of them get paid a lot, right? But so many people look down on it, and it's crazy to me. And like, so there's stuff you can find that you like, even if it's crazy to other people, that pays well, but gets you like more interested in your job. So for me, it's like a perfect opportunity for reflection, really.
slowing down, reflecting on your life, what you value, what are things that you desire and things that you want. So that's great points.
Yeah.
I think a lovely young lady out in Canada. Why did I say lovely young lady like I know her? But still, it's like she's a podcaster. She has a Mo Money blog, and she actually our podcast, Mo Money podcast, and also the blog. But she basically alluded to the fact that we've forgotten as people how to have fun without actually spending any money.
Oh, wow.
And we just kept on doing it for so long that we just think our happiness is literally tied to whatever we could swipe into. So it's not only that you can just have brunch at home, you have to go out to have brunch, or it's not brunch. Is it brunch if you're not out there with your friends?
How did you just bring up brunch?
Hey, this is what I do. This is what I do.
We're talking to J.Money. You just brought up
He's
brunch.
a foodie. He said he was a foodie earlier.
Exactly. Thank you for
No, Lawrence hate brunch, J.Money. He always bring up brunch every episode, no matter who we
it's a thing. I'm just saying she was right, and I just wanted to reiterate that. That's all I want to add.
Of course, he had to bring up brunch.
And other things as well. So it's interesting to see that you can find happiness, and I guess at this stage, obviously, you're going through this life and you're enjoying this journey. What are you looking forward to, if you are looking forward to anything?
Yeah, honestly, like for me, like I had a health scare earlier this year. Like all of a sudden, like not to get all graphic, but I started having all these blisters like in my mouth and my eyes and my throat. And one day I woke up and I couldn't swallow. And I was like, oh crap, like I'm going to have to go to the doctors. If I can't swallow, I can't drink or eat, like that really scared me because it takes me a while to go to the doctors. And I did. And they were able to get me to swallow again. But it turned out I had this like really rare autoimmune disease called pemphigus vulgaris. It's this rare blistering disease. And luckily there's treatment for it, which I'm on now and feeling fantastic. But that kind of really, like for 3 months, I was like, oh my gosh, I've never been like this sad in my life. Like I stopped talking to friends, and it was right when I stopped working at The Fool, and I had not bought the blog back. So like I had nothing to do to use my time productively for 3 months. And that was like the lowest I've been. This is earlier this year. And then I started feeling better. And I just remember like being able to go and get like drink a coffee and like swallow it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the best like liquid in the world, And I saw friends and I was able to talk to them. Like, oh my gosh, I could talk. Like it's so crazy because like we take like for granted all this stuff. And I never thought I'd get that sick. Never, right? Like you never think it's going to happen to you, and I've been successful in all this stuff. And for whatever reason, I thought I was invincible, and so I got sick and I got better. And it's a lifelong disease that I'll have to manage, but like my lifestyle is back to like 95% of what it was. But that really shocked me again into like living, and so I guess to answer your question, like really like, and this is going to sound lame, but when I wake up at 5 every day to get the morning started early, I wake up and I look around and I put my hands together and I say, thank you, God, for like making me be alive. And then I go about my day and I forget about it. But like, that's like for me, and I'm also not a good planner. So like the daily, if I wake up and I go out, I'm like, okay, I have another day. Like that's all I know I have, And so I kind of focus on that for the better or the worse. So I don't really have goals, to be honest with you right now. And I don't have any projects in the works. I don't really look forward to anything. I just I'm just happy to be alive, as weird as that sounds.
Oh, that does not sound weird at all. That does not sound weird at all. I think people do a disservice to themselves of not expressing gratitude from the smallest things to the biggest things. And in your case, just thinking about if you're no longer here for your children, right? And just being happy that you're up, that you're alive, that you can actually be productive and do things that you love and enjoy. And I think for people who are always striving for the next goal, sometimes in terms of like mindset wise, how can you get there if you're not expressing gratitude where you are now and who you are in your circumstances? Because we can strive as long as we want, but you have to kind of appreciate where you are in the journey that you are too. And the simplest thing is waking up, because if you don't wake up, you can't strive to any goal. That's something that, we talk about on the podcast as well. You have to express some level of gratitude.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it reminded me of there's a lot of people in my family that's been having I guess medical emergencies or health scares, but
Mhm.
I'm reminded of one young lady I met doing like a mission trip. The only reason I was there is because I spoke Creole. They're like, hey, they need a Creole speaking person and you're gonna fly with me. I'm like, all right, cool, let's go. Because that was like my town and I knew it. And that's I met her. She was also from Canada. I was like, all these people from Canada. What's going on? But she was like a model. She was a teacher. She was a fitness model. She was a pageant person. Wow. And in a freak accident, like it's just a regular day, she lost her leg. Oh. And you had that moment that like you're referring to when you're sitting in the bed and you're trying to like wrap your brain around the way your world has completely changed. And for some people, you could fall into deep despair and maybe you could bounce back and maybe you could even break even. But there's some people in some way, shape or form, like I guess to her later on, she ended up being part of the Canadian para athletes Olympics. Oh, wow. So she's doing the skiing. She jumped out of a plane, one leg. She also even went back to fitness modeling with even just the one leg. Oh, damn. So it's moments like that, at least for myself, to your point, that you just realize that there's just more to strive for in life. Like you don't have to just, sit there and not be grateful for the little things, especially when you know other people that's like, hey, they're just doing the best they can with whatever happens. So that 95% that you mentioned, it's 100% of whatever somebody else is taking for granted. Yeah. So it doesn't really, at least for me, every time I see her and I see her story and her journey, I'm like, man, she was on a path to do one thing, but she really continued on this other path and she's making a whole world of a difference.
Oh, you gotta put it in the show notes if you do those or whatever, so we could all like check it out.
Yeah, I definitely do that because I still, we still kind of go back and forth, but it's just following on social media.
Oh, you should get her on the podcast, dude. Has she been on?
It probably would. Yeah, probably you'll try to get her on there.
Lawrence.
Lawrence, do something.
Lawrence. I can't trust Canadians. They're from the north.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, I watch Canadians. I'm like, but I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's something we have to discuss.
I have to work through that.
You better edit this out here. Yeah, you better edit it out.
No, they'll know. The Canadians will know. But I actually love Canada though. I've been there like recently. I can't speak of it enough. Quebec City is where you want to go. And the Canadians are like, good enough for me.
Should be their slogan. Good enough for LG.
I know. Well, J.Money, we really appreciate you being on the podcast. It's been an incredible interview, and thanks again for coming on. So if you want to share your just last tidbits or just anything in terms of people who are interested in personal finance or who just want to start, or any last, things you want to say.
Yeah, no, I would say if you're on this podcast listening, like you're already like a step of, millions of other people who don't spend the time paying attention to money. So it's a good job on there. And I think the more you're interested in stuff, whether it's debt, investing, like whatever journey you're on, I think keep consuming and keep looking at what other people are doing and what you connect with, and then experiment with stuff, as we talked about in the show, start things and, you don't even have to tell people, you can just start it. So if you fail, like, it's not like too like scary and whatnot. And I think for me, financially, like tip wise, like tracking my net worth, was really helpful because it kind of captures both sides of the equation, your debt and your assets, your savings and investing. But it gives you a number. And if you constantly track it like once a month, spend 5 minutes just updating the numbers, like it really gives you a good idea of how you're progressing. Even if you're like your net worth's like negative 200,000, right? Which a lot of, student loans and stuff that happens. But seeing that number move every month gives you that reinforcement that you're working towards being better and you are getting better. And that really changes, at least for me mentally. I started changing my habits because I knew it reflected my net worth. And when I knew at the end of the month I'd had to update it, I'd see it. And so it really kind of programmed me to be smarter and be at least more conscious. I still would spend money on stupid stuff, but at least I was consciously doing it versus not consciously doing it. So that really changed my mindset and my whole, just really like helped me stay on track, and I could track it over the years to know that I'm doing good. But yeah, other than that, if you guys are interested in checking out the blog, you can go to budgetsaresexy.com. or find me on Twitter at Budgets Are Sexy. And as we said before, yeah, my goal is just to get people to think about money, have more fun talking about money. I call myself like the dessert of like the personal finance world. Like I share like some extra, I try and be fun and extra, but I never go deep into anything. Like you'll never like have like a debate on, I don't know, investing with 5% versus 6% or how to start, whatever. Like I don't go into the details or the how-tos. I just try and get you to think of a new topic every time you're on the blog, and hopefully come away like feeling a little bit better than you got there is my main goal. So yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, I had a blast and seeing you in person, a week ago and then being on here. This is fun. This is the stuff that really excites me. And, a lot of our friends in the real world don't care about this stuff. So thank you.
The Money Nerds collab.
Yeah.
I would also say definitely follow him in his newsletter. I actually receive it, and it's always you get some tidbits or even opportunities. I know recently you dropped like an opportunity for somebody to make some money for just sharing their story about their 401k, as well as you also featured somebody else's story that I thought was actually amazing as well. So it's also like a good, it's a good tool to have. I think we need this kind of information. But can you tell me a little bit more about that one? The money for
401k champion award.
Yeah, I might.
Yeah, you want to win $1,000.
I don't know when this is going to air. It might be over. I think it ends in October sometime. But yeah, they're a company that just rewards 3 people with $1,000 in cash for sharing why they love the 401k and really like how you go out of your way to like get other people in your company or friends or whatever interested and enrolled as well. The free matches that you get, why you believe in 401ks. Anything. I mean, I should get paid money to promote the stuff I promote, but I don't, because there's really cool stuff sometimes, and as soon as I hear something, I want, our readers to have access to it. The newsletter you're talking about too. Yeah. So I blog, and then if you don't want to just, go to the website, you can just sign up to the newsletter and get them emailed to you whenever an article comes out. It's just literally a copy of the blog posts. But yeah, we're always, freelance gigs I share every now and then. One time we had, it was a new show coming out and they were looking for people to be interviewed. It wasn't Netflix, it might've been Hulu. And we got one of our readers to be on there, which is really cool. So there's always like the media looking to find real life people. And they come to us bloggers sometimes to help find it. So lots of cool opportunities here and there.
Yeah, that's a really good opportunity.
Yeah, I'm going to start writing today. I need $1,000, like for no reason at all. Like, I need that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks again, J.Money. Like this is such a great interview with you. Just being transparent. Again, I claim you as the forefounders of, blogging and being transparent and showing your net worth and everything that you're going through and just making money fun, in your own way, right? I think we have went off the track a bit about making personal finance personal. Like it's more of the fluff now, but you're continuously just being yourself, welcoming energy and just providing people with what helps and information that you think they'll be able to help them is through stories. And I think that's why I think you were been just a great guest on the Financial Grill, because we share our stories, and with the stories that we share is introspection and helpful information. They'll be able to hopefully gain, our viewers and audience the best, helpful information that they can. So once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime you say forefathers, I'm like, hey, she says you're old.
I do think it does sound old.
Forefathers.
No.
Godfathers.
Founding fathers, forefathers.
It's a little bit more distinction. Godfathers.
Yeah, it's funny when I won a lifetime achievement. I think it was like 6 years in. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like 30 something. Like,
they're retiring you. Get out of here.
Drop my keyboard on the stage. Like, I'm out.
Clock out. You've done 10 years. You're 10 years over.
Stop it. I can't with you guys. But I'll put all your information out on the show notes for people who can subscribe to your blog posts, as well as Twitter, all your social media handles. But
Okay.
If you're listening, you made it through this great interview with J.Money. Make sure you check out his blog, Widget Budgets Are Sexy. Subscribe to his newsletter. Once again, thank you so much, guys, for tuning to another great episode of TFG. My name's Alainta. You can find me on IG streets as well as YouTube at Alainta_Elson on IG and Alainta on YouTube. What about you, LG?
You could just Google me because I'm that. Google me.
Yes, love it. Love it.
No, it's been fun though, guys.
You can find him on you can find him on Neighborhood Finance Guy.
No, that was Google me.
What just Google me.
I don't want. That's it.
That's it.
It's like Madonna doesn't have a last name. Do everybody know Madonna's last name?
She doesn't have one. Just Madonna. We just Madonna. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. TFG, we're out.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Griot podcast, powered by the Wealth Builders Collective.